Hello and welcome back to Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. I'm back from my South American cruise. I hope you enjoyed our food shows the last couple of weeks. But we start off today with a really sad note with talking about the death of Kobe Bryant.
Very much so. And
I know you've got some memories because that was one of your favorite players.
it was, as I told you, I remember I used to have his shoes back when I played basketball. And I named my dog after Kobe. And in our family, naming your dog after Kobe, we named our dog after Earl the Pearl Monroe, Clyde the Glide Drexler, Jerome Bettis, Charles Barkley. We always named our dogs after athletes we loved and, admired.
Yeah, it's sad.
And,
Really sad.
yeah. I
I
know.
mean, it's a gap. I mean, LeBron just passed him for third on the all-time list, and he was at the game, and Kobe's eligible for the Hall of Fame. He was been a first ballot Hall of Famer anyhow, but now for sure.
Yes.
I mean, he was good. He was good for the game. He started playing when he was 17 years old in the NBA. It was kind of wild if you think about it.
It was really wild. And, I guess for some, he he was probably the player that wanted to be like Mike. That was the closest to being like Mike, I would say, that we've seen. There were lots of other players
Yeah,
that
he
came.
had that competitive fire that Michael had.
He had the competitive fire. He had aspects of his game that were very Jordan-esque. Some would argue somewhat to his detriment, in that he wanted to, take the last shot, and less so like LeBron with looking to find the pass or get to Shaq or whatever that was. But you could see like in his movements, he had like that back down fadeaway jumper that Jordan had. Like he had a lot of very lot of Jordan-esque qualities, and and I think it also was tough to live up to because nobody was ever going to beat Jordan. Um,
Yeah, and this was so close in time, it made it even harder.
and he was also Jordan was in the very beginning. He ended his career right when social media started, and Kobe was more when it became a little bit more popular. So I think there were more opinions about his play. It's always interesting to think about some of the greats that we love if they had been around in the 24-hour news cycle, social media, extreme scrutiny, analytics, all this other stuff, how everybody would play out.
Yeah,
But there's been some really nice tributes to Kobe. Um, there's been moments at some NBA games today. There was the moment at the Pro Bowl.
and I remember the game he scored 81, which is the second most points ever in a game after Wilt's 100.
Yeah.
And I was remembering today because it slips your mind because he's always been a Laker, but you forget he was drafted by the Hornets.
Drafted by the Hornets.
Charlotte.
And I forget who he was traded for, but yeah.
He was traded for Vlade Divac.
Vlade Divac. I think Charlotte has forever regretted that trade. No offense to Vlade.
Yeah, I think they were looking at being maybe closer than they thought they were, and he was a piece. And Kobe's 17 years old. I think he was drafted. He was 16th or 17th overall.
Yeah. And like you said, he was not just out of high school, but it was out of, he played a little bit in Europe and European high schools, actually. So it just,
Fluent Italian.
yes, he was. Well, he'll definitely be missed. And hopefully, obviously, prayers and thoughts to his family because they obviously lost not just Kobe, but they also lost their daughter. And obviously, the other two people who obviously, the other woman and the other child that were in that helicopter as well. It's just really very sad, very tragic.
Yeah, thoughts go out to all those families in the helicopter pilot as well.
Of course. And I guess, the message that seems to be echoing through all the Twitters, Instagram, and everywhere else is, life can, be gone in a moment. So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah. Well, let's move on and talk about some other things that were on our list.
Well, I'll start out with one I just read that's sort of a happy story. We were talking about one of my all-time favorite Steelers, probably at least top three, maybe top one at different points when you ask me, Troy Polamalu. And one of my, I guess, and two of my most respected, but players that caused us the most probably ire over the years. Both Ray Lewis, who put out a video talking about how amazing Troy Polamalu was and he can't wait to join him in the Hall of Fame. And then Tom Brady put out a huge post talking about how he was one of the most difficult guys he ever went against.
Wow.
Just when you keep trying to dislike Tom Brady, you know.
Will you like him when he's a Charger?
I'm going to like him when he's a Steeler after Ben retires. Or Charger, wherever he goes, yeah. But it was like Tom Brady basically, he had a really long breakdown talking about how Polamalu was just the guy. Like, you just never knew where he was just a disruptor. You had to know where he was going to be, sense of the moment. He was one of the hardest guys he ever had to watch film on.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. I remember the play where he jumped over the line of scrimmage, and I remember that interception he made against the Raiders to win the game, playoff game.
And the one they showed the two. Ray Lewis showed the two plays: the pick six against Flacco, and then the strip fumble sack against Flacco.
Yeah,
to hold those games up.
Pretty incredible. Yeah, man, he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
It shouldn't be even.
Yeah, I'm hoping Alan Faneca gets in as well.
Yeah, it's always tough for guards, but
yeah.
Hopefully I think.
I was very happy. We talked about it a little bit this morning. That Donnie Shell finally gets into the Hall of Fame. I thought he should have been a long time ago. 51 interceptions. That's a lot of interceptions.
Yes.
But an undrafted player out of South Carolina State in 1974, giving the Steelers 5 Hall of Famers from the class of 1974, which is really incredible.
And it's sad that is the reason he's been out for so long.
Pick number 1, Jack Lambert pick number 2, John Stallworth pick number 4, Mike Webster pick number 5, and then Donnie Shell. It's just an incredible draft.
Incredible.
If you get 1 Hall of Famer in the draft, it's an amazing draft, right? But 5, that's incredible.
Yeah. And sadly, they said that was one of the reasons he did get in, is there were so many Steelers that people felt they couldn't add more Steelers from those teams, which is just a dumb reason.
It was a great team. I mean, 51 interceptions. I don't care who he plays for.
Exactly.
That should have been it.
On one of the best defenses of all time, still.
Now, that said, I don't know where I stand. I'm not, I like the fact that Bill Cowher is in. I don't know if Bill Cowher deserved to be in.
It's a tough one. I think Bill Cowher is, he's like the coaching Eli Manning, who we can touch on real quick because he just retired as well. Like, Bill Cowher had his moments, but he was also a memorable guy. I think he's a very well-liked guy in NFL circles.
Yeah.
And I think that carries a little more weight than his actual coach, because I don't feel like, Dick LeBeau did a lot of the heavy lifting on what made that team great. And, I think you could argue there's been other coaches, just like Eli Manning is going to be a 500 quarterback with almost as many interceptions as touchdowns, I think, or pretty close to. And,
now see, I can't support him for the Hall of Fame.
But he's got that name.
I think he's exactly what he was. He's a 500 quarterback.
Right.
And he won 2 Super Bowls and beat the Patriots twice, which I liked. But, just, you can put him because he won 2 Super Bowls, or you can look at the whole body of his work.
Well, people are giving this sort of weird, I'll get your opinion on this. They say one of the criteria to the Hall of Fame is, can you tell the story of the NFL without mentioning this person? And I feel like by that standard, then you'd have to add David Tyree and Plaxico Burress, who also made catches,
Yeah.
And I know I've criticized Big Ben a lot on this show, but the fact that they say Eli Manning got 2 Super Bowl MVPs and Roethlisberger has none, when they were comparing their careers on one of the Talking Head shows, Roethlisberger did more in the Super Bowl that Santonio Holmes got the MVP for than Manning did in any of the Super Bowls.
Agreed.
And I think if
he could have easily gotten the MVP for that.
And if Roethlisberger was anybody other than Ben Roethlisberger, who had been going through some growing pains in the media and other things at the time, let's just leave it at that, he would have gotten that Super Bowl. If that's Aaron Rodgers, Brady, if it's a Manning, the quarterback is that threw the pass and led the drive is getting the MVP, not the wide receiver. But Roethlisberger wasn't a very well-liked person, especially at that time. and that's why he didn't get the MVP. I think.
Right.
Whereas those MVPs for Eli Manning, like you spun around and threw the ball up in the air, and a guy caught it on his helmet, while your defense held Tom Brady to 17 points. Like, just saying. I mean, because they're throwing the MVPs out as like a big case for him as well. So, and I guess we can, as we're finishing up our NFL pre-chat, we can, I guess, mea culpa for our not so great picks.
I hope nobody took our things to bet on, but I'm sure a number of you bet on the Ravens, and I'm sure a number of you bet on the Saints.
Yeah.
So, interesting. I mean, the Saints lose in New Orleans in another controversy.
Although this win way less, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, the Saints had a number of chances to win, and then I know they're talking today that he's actually mulling his retirement. Drew Brees was the third best quarterback that day playing football, and I think that's why they lost.
Yeah, he wasn't as sharp as he usually is. He did not have a good day.
No. He missed a lot of throws, and then, sometimes you decide that, you'd rather save $800,000 or $1 million and let Mark Ingram go, who played excellent for the Ravens, and you took on somebody else, and it caused, Kamara to carry a heavier load that he wasn't really capable of doing. And, some of those decisions hurt you as well.
Yeah.
But I guess since
so
this is
the Niners and the Chiefs, I think it's going to be a great Super Bowl.
I hope it's a great. That's what I'm hoping for, is a great Super Bowl.
I'm not going to pick a winner because I haven't done well all year, but I am going to pick an over, and I think it'll be over 60 points.
I would say from a scrutiny and historic perspective, I kind of want Mahomes to get his Super Bowl so we don't have to talk about it for the next 10 years of his career. And as much as a legacy of a quarterback is defined by Super Bowl wins, obviously that's Manning's case for the Hall of Fame. I think Mahomes is one of the most incredible athletes I've ever watched in my life, especially the quarterback position in a short amount of time. And
right.
I'd like to see him get his Super Bowl so that it's not going to be brought up for the next 5 or 6 years when the Chiefs are, 12-4 and losing the divisional round, which is just inevitable to happen in football because it's tough. And I think
if they lose, they're going to point out Andy Reid just has not won the big game.
And Andy Reid seems like a nice guy, but looks like a walrus. And I always enjoy those pictures of him in the punt pack and kick competition when he looked like a small adult, a bunch of round little kids.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm rooting for the Chiefs. Plus, I feel like San Francisco has had way more success Super Bowl wise with Montana.
I'll be rooting for the 49ers because I always support my clients.
Well, there you go.
But staying on football,
okay,
I've got a little task to do tonight. Sport Business Journal is asking a number of people to answer 2 questions about the XFL.
Okay.
So, how long do I think the XFL will be around? And so I've been giving a lot of thought to this, and I think it'll make it to the end of year 2, and then we'll see what happens. But I definitely think there's going to be a lot of changes after year 1.
Agreed.
But I think it'll definitely go 2 years.
I think if I was Vegas and I wanted people to put money on it, I would put it at 2.5. Meaning I'd want people to say it's going to be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I just think the egos involved and the amount of time they put to bringing this back as a thing, I can't imagine it going less than 2, no matter what.
I'm still, like we talked about on the show, I'm still boggled. You get all these named quarterbacks out there that would attract interest. I mean, supposedly you have all this money. I would have signed a bunch of these quarterbacks looking for a big payday, like Phillip Rivers and some of these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, because at least, what you need to do is you need to attract eyeballs. You need to get attention. The league hasn't done anything to get attention. They're coming. But there's nothing saying to me, wow, that's must-watch. I got to check this out.
No. And they can't do what they did and you can't do what you did the first time, which is talk about a more extreme, violent sport, because you can't do that now.
No.
That was their hook last time. It was like, everything goes, harder hits, and you can't do
And
that.
you can't tell me I'm going to be excited about watching a wide open offense if the only quarterback I've heard of is Landry Jones.
And all love to Landry Jones, former Steeler, but he's not putting butts in the seats.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And again, I can't. I mean, like you said, outside of them going big with like doing something crazy with a Trevor Lawrence or somebody that's a known college, the Zion Williamson of the NFL draft kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I want to see old washed up quarter. Like
Yeah.
that's not exciting. I mean, that's not gonna get me to. I mean, it might get me to watch from I'm bored. It's on TV or I'm at a bar and I'll turn around and watch it. But there's so much on. I don't know how you're gonna pull my focus. I guess.
Well, sit here. If you wanted to go the Joe Namath route, you had the opportunity to sign Burrow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done his college eligibility. He's done. You could have said we're going to make a splash. This is the guy we're going to build the league around and go.
Or at least tried.
But I think you only have one chance to make a great first impression, and I just don't know that they've taken advantage of their opportunity.
No. No, I said, was he?
Hot stove league for baseball. Mookie Betts is going to be either a Padre or a Dodger, which is I kind of find it fascinating because the Padres have always been all these trade talks this year. I think they're really serious about trying to make a move, and I'd love to see them. I'd love to see somebody different, somebody like the Padres in the mix. So I'm hoping they sign him, and I think that they're also in the running for starting Marte.
Yeah.
Which I think is their plan B if they don't get Mookie Betts.
Yes. Well, I guess while we're on baseball, we haven't had a chance to talk about the Astros cheating scandal very much.
No, we really haven't.
And as I was talking to you and Mom earlier on the phone, I realize it's a naive approach in anything. Like I realize, we don't live in a cheaters never win, winners never cheat world. I mean, just look at most CEOs and government officials. It's pretty much the opposite. And I know sports is a business, and business is about making money and winning is money. But I'd like to think sports can be pure, so I would like cheating on no level. I'm that level of extreme. But on the other side, if cheating is available and accepted on some level, which it is in baseball, everyone sort of said that if you can steal the signs without technology, that's okay. But if you steal the signs with technology, then that's where the line is.
Sure, I mean, there's always been stories about teams putting a guy with binoculars in the scoreboard.
Right.
But now, because you've added the Apple Watch and supposedly some kind of a buzzer under your uniform,
yeah,
that is taking it to the limits. But if they would have had that stuff in the 1930s and 40s, they would have used it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like if you allow cheating, then it's cheating. So just because they, built the better mousetrap, built a better cheating trap using today's technology, like I don't know. Like I don't understand why this cheating is okay, but this cheating now that's way, way too far. I'm sure most fidelity situations in real life, it's not, there would be no level of cheating is cheating. And I think if you're going to let it in, you let it in. It's on you. So,
But baseball gives the history and the record books and everything else. That's the one that always has a problem because it's the oldest professional sport in America, the oldest team sport, professional sport in America.
Right, but I mean, you have, obviously the racist angle where they didn't allow any African Americans to play for the longest time.
Yeah.
Then you had, the dead ball era. You have all these Hall of Famers talking about how they used to spit on balls and use snot. And then that's now looked at as kind of a funny thing. And then you have a whole other level of, once you get past that, there's, whatever the greenies were.
Roger Clemens.
Yeah, Barry Bonds.
Yeah. Aren't getting the votes.
No.
So we're saying that we don't like cheating.
Right. Except some cheating is funny.
Or certain kinds of cheating.
Yeah. And again, I just think it's a weird line to draw because I feel like once you allow, once you allow cheating, now it's, oh, well, you cheated too far. And it's like, well, but these guys could cheat up to this line is fine, but if you go a little bit over this cheating line, and it's like there's either rules or there's not, and you've sort of thrown out your rules, in my mind.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that the big issue here is that you're saying, the Astros cheated and they won the World Series.
Yeah.
And they kept cheating and they lost World Series, but they were in the World Series. And the Red Sox cheated and they won the World Series. So, we're saying the crime pays, and I think that's sticking in people's craw.
But at the same time, you're also admitting that everybody's committing crimes. It's just these guys are better at the crimes. Like if everybody's stealing signs, but they're better at stealing signs, and now you're mad because they were better at it. Like, I don't know. I just.
Yeah, well, you got a very, very good point there. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, I feel like I'm arguing the Patriots' point, sadly, over all their controversies. But on some level, that's.
You remember what they did before this? They were hacking into other teams' scouting computers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a franchise with a history of doing things that are outside the agreed-upon lines.
Right, and if it was a Hollywood mafia movie, we'd be rooting for the Astros as the young and upcoming gangsters who were putting those old gangsters and their lame-ass ways out of the pasture. So, because everybody's a bad guy. It's just some people are just better at it.
That's a good way of looking at it.
So I feel like you either shut the door entirely and make it, anytime you cheat anybody, they're caught and bad things happen, or you just, it's Westworld. It's chance.
Yeah, it is Westworld.
Or come up with ways to counter the digital cheating. I don't know. Or mix up your signs.
Yeah, or figure out something else.
Yeah, or come out the next inning and be like, every time I touch my left leg, actually throw it to the right. Or whatever you're going to do, Or now 1 isn't a fastball, or 4 is a fastball. Just mix it up a little bit. I don't know.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It really, really is. I guess we hit the.
Sports agenda.
Well, they announced the NBA All-Star starters, and it seems like most work in pretty consensus, with the exception of Trae Young, who, depending on your, good stats, bad team, should he be there or should he not be starting? But again, it's fan, player, coach, vote, algorithm, so I guess it doesn't matter. I know if you're Atlanta, you're very excited because now when Luka's starting on the other team, you can be like, look, the guy we traded, he's starting too. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's probably the biggest boom for them is right now is that, they can be like, look, same all-star starter. We didn't lose anything. I guess you're a glass half full Atlanta Hawks guy.
Any surprises in the NBA so far at almost the halfway mark? Anything surprising to you?
I don't think this is really surprising because it's been discussed, I think, now for 3 straight seasons. But Joel Embiid is out again, and Ben Simmons is thriving. Like, they just destroyed the Lakers, and Ben Simmons has looked fantastic with Joel Embiid not playing. And again, I think they're both really talented people, but they just seem like they're just really not a good fit. Because if you have Embiid, the most dominant post player in the NBA today, no offense to Jokic, but it's probably Embiid. You need him to go inside and out. And Ben Simmons, not being a great shooter, needs to have a team built around him, sort of like Giannis, where because people forget how good Ben Simmons is. It's just he doesn't shoot from the outside, and when the paint's not clogged up, then he can do his thing, and he's finding people and passing, and he looks great. So,
yeah,
I don't know which one. I mean,
no, I think you're right. I think it's just a question of the roster just doesn't fit well together. Now, you can make a blockbuster trade for one of them, I'm sure, and just get a real haul and make your team better, and maybe not go to the finals this year, but you do what you got to do to build a long-term competitive team.
I think what's probably going to happen is Brett Brown may be the fall guy, and maybe he deserves to be. I don't know. I'm not a basketball coach, but people don't seem to like him. and they bring another coach in who feels like he can take these two and make them mesh into a great. Because you feel like, what am I going to possibly get for either one of these two guys? It's going to be as good as these two guys. So I think they're probably going to run it back with a different coach next year, assuming they have a playoff flame out. But if I had to pick one, I think it's really tough if you're Philly. Because I think Embiid is probably, I know he's more well loved in Philly from a fan standpoint. And I think there are times when he looks like the best player in basketball, and other times where it seems like he's still out of shape 5 years into his NBA career. And he's off injured with an injury history. And Simmons has been the guy that's taken more heat in the media, so the fans would probably maybe the fans are coming around now that they're watching what he can do without Embiid. But I think if you were building a franchise for the future, you'd probably build around Simmons and not Embiid. But I don't know what you can get it from Embiid that wouldn't look terrible if you're, from a trade standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you're trading the number one. Was he the number one picker? No, he was a top 5 pick, though, right?
Yeah, he was thought to be the best player in the draft, but he was going to miss the year
with that injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. But might be surprised if there's the Thunder and the Heat.
Yeah.
And I didn't think either of them would be playing as well as they're playing.
Well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a stud.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised, more surprised by the Thunder than the Heat.
Yeah.
But almost shocked by the Thunder. But maybe that's because I had a blind spot for Russell Westbrook.
It's true. Although, once again, he and Harden don't look like they're that great together. But you saw the game where they were winning and he missed 17 3-pointers in the game. And I think he's like 3 for his last 40 or something ridiculous from 3-point range. He had another really bad night the other night. And as Charles Barkley goes on Barkley is famously very anti-analytics and doesn't like all the 3-point shooting. But he did make a good point. He's like, I understand, Kenny was like, when you're a shooter, you got to shoot your way out of it. And Charles is like, that's fine. But you also need a plan B. Like, some nights your shot's not falling. And in the middle of a game when you're trying to win, isn't the time to shoot yourself back into it. And to James Harden's credit, he was in the gym right after that game. He shot 1 for 17. He was in the gym after everybody cleared out and he was shooting threes. But as Barkley points out, like, there's got to be some other aspect to your game. It can't just be I'm going to keep chucking these up or I'm going to keep throwing myself into bodies hoping I get calls. Like, you got to figure out another way to contribute when your shot's not falling.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we talk football, we talk basketball, we talk baseball.
We haven't talked cruise time.
No, we have not.
I mean, you've been out of the country for almost 3 weeks.
I like that. For 3 weeks, it was an amazing cruise. First of all, I have to say that Viking, if you go on a Viking cruise, you're going to be treated as well as you've ever been treated in your life. You're going to be fed. I tweeted the other day, I said, the one thing I can tell you is in 17 days, more of me came back than left. Because I know I added at least 6 or 7 pounds. I was kind of living on 2 meals a day and was feeling pretty good about that before I left. And I ate 3 times a day every day, except for the last 2 days. And that was only because I was just so overly full from the previous 15 days. I really didn't think I could eat. But my highlight meal was a South American king crab. And I've always loved king crab. But when you're getting it in Florida and Massachusetts, other places we live, you're not getting a fresh king crab. You're getting a frozen king crab that's still really, really good. And in South America, it's a live. They're not as big in South America as they are in the Northwest and the Arctic Circle and everywhere where the famous king crab is from. They're not as big. But I got to tell you, when you pick out your live king crab and they cook it for you right then and there, it's amazing. So I got to say, it was amazing. I saw some amazing lakes in the Andes, and I saw glaciers. I really learned that there are no penguins in the North Pole, like the Coca-Cola commercials.
Yeah.
There's no penguins for their polar bears. But all the penguins are in South America and the South Pole. And I also didn't know that some penguins, if you think about this, they don't necessarily live on ice, like you would hypothetically think.
Right.
So the first penguin I saw was like a prairie dog. I mean, it was like a real barren area, and they dig holes in the ground, and it's down by the water. But they come up in the rocks and dig holes and nest in the holes like a burrow. I never thought about that before.
No.
But great cruise. The first night we were on the cruise, one of the options was you could have dinner with an Argentinian family. So Mom and I and another couple and the tour guide went and had dinner with this Argentinian family, and it was a really cool experience. And their son was an aspiring, he's 11 years old, he's an aspiring magician. He did some really good card tricks.
That's very
cool. A nice meal and good conversation. It was a lot of fun. That was one of the highlights of the trip.
It seems like something that should happen more often for lots of people. I know it's an impossibility in the world with travel and expenses, but just meeting people around the world, and it seems like something people need to do.
Well, this family had they said that some of their friends asked them why you keep bringing these people, these strangers into your home. And what he said was, I can't take my children around the world, but I can bring the world into my home. So I thought that was a really good, a good perspective to have.
It's an awesome perspective to have.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we liked the cruise so much, we bought a Mediterranean cruise in 2021 in October that will start at Barcelona and go to Marseille, Monte Carlo, Florence, Rome, Greece, Croatia, and end up in Venice.
Very nice.
Yes, we're pretty excited about that. But like I said, really, really good time. Fantastic service and accommodations. And, the other thing I came away with is, Magellan sailed around the world, and he sailed around Cape Horn. And the only time the boat was really moving, where you could really feel the waves and everything, was around Cape Horn. And then we saw a replica of Magellan's ship. And when you look at that, and you think about what he did, it's an amazing accomplishment. The ship that Mom and I saw that they could do that, it blew me away.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, really, really, it was really wild.
Very nice. Well, I had two small food moments.
Okay.
I found another breakfast spot, Red Dog Diner, which is on Magazine Street down here in New Orleans.
Breakfast spots.
I like going to the gym, going out to breakfast, and then eating healthy the rest of the day. I know there's probably nothing to it, but in my mind, if I eat less than early, then I got the whole day to work it off. I know that's not how it works, but it's nice to tell yourself that. But I had some eggs, and then I had a sweet potato pancake from there. That was just so good. Just the sweet, because it's made with sweet potato compost, so it's so moist. You still got the crispy edges and the little crispy bottom, but it's so moist, and it's got the natural sweet potato sweet. You don't need any syrup or anything with it. Just a little pat of butter, add a little moisture to the top, and it was wonderful. And they give you some little fried pieces of sweet potato on top too.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a really good, And again, sweet potatoes are pretty good for you. So, the sugar you're getting is at least slightly better. Like I said, I can't attest to what goes into it besides.
You're a big fan of sweet potato pie as well.
I am. I'm a big sweet potato person in general. So, that. But Maria, who's not a big sweet potato person, had a bite of my pancake, and she had to admit that was delicious. So. And then I had a pizza moment. So we love pizza moments. And I didn't mention this one, I think, when we did our pizza show. But Pizza Delicious, which is near a really cool vinyl shop, and a nice little walk along the Mississippi River is right there, too, because it's right on the side. Pizza Delicious makes a very New York-style pizza. Big slices, foldable, crispy, top crust. Just really, really good. Good quality cheese, tasty pepperoni. A little bit greasy, from the stuff.
Yeah, how was the sauce?
Sauce is good. Sauce is very good. And I got a side of marinara because I did my crust. Marinara was good as well because they also do pasta. But it's clearly a pizza shop that also does pasta. And it's nice because it's in a cool neighborhood and then they have some indoor and outdoor seating.
Well, since Mom and I booked our trip to come see you in New Orleans in March, I was just thinking one of the things we should do is we'll go to some of the places you talked about, and we'll take photographs, and maybe we'll even shoot a little video, and I'll post it on my Twitter page and on my Facebook page, and people can see some of the things that we've been talking about.
I think that's great, and you can either back up or dispute my reviews of these places as well. So yeah, I'm pretty confident about the breakfast places, though. I don't think I didn't oversell cake, so and you've been there.
Well, I got to read. I had plenty of time to read on this cruise. I read 6 Years by Harlan Coben. You and I have always liked Harlan Coben.
Very much so.
And this is a great read. A great read. It's just a really well thought out, well written, well plotted mystery. So I think after Mom finishes, we'll probably bring that down to you on the trip after Mom finishes. Because I blew through it in a day. I just, here comes a long book, but I just had clean focus and I just read it all day. I was sitting and we had like 8 hours to wait for our flight. So I had a solid 8 hours to read.
Very nice. Oh, and I have not finished the first seasons, but I'm about 7 episodes in. So that's the caveat, because I don't want to completely endorse. But it's already been renewed for 3 seasons already. But if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, fantasy, that kind of show, The Witcher on Netflix with Henry Cavill, very good. It's a fun fantasy show.
I've read a lot of really good reviews on it.
Some of the special effects, they didn't go practical, went a little too CG a little from time to time, but it's not, that show's not too much about that, but it's a really fun show. So, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience with, I was familiar with The Witcher beforehand because I played part of The Witcher 3, but I never finished the game. I didn't play Witcher 1, Witcher 2, and I didn't read any of the books. The one thing I've read is that people were confused by the time jump. I didn't find it confusing. Maria also didn't find it confusing, so, take that for what you will, but there's not a graphic that comes across the screen ever that tells you something has changed. If you know what I'm saying, You just have to use context and event. Like, there'll be times where you might be in your head, you're like, did this happen now or before? But it'll become obvious as you're watching the show that this was a past event, as a future, so as they sort of get the timeline.
I'm catch up on the 2 episodes of Evil I missed, so I can watch the finale on Thursday night. It's a short. Yeah, they only did, I think, 10 episodes.
Yes.
Because Mom says they didn't know how it was going to go over, and it's gone over pretty well. And it's just it's a different take on things that we've been reading, or watching, and I've kind of enjoyed it.
Well, of course, that's great.
Those of you that follow my Sutton Impact column in Sport Business Journal, tomorrow a column comes out about David Stern and his impact on my life. So I will put a link up on Twitter, I will put a link on Facebook, and probably on LinkedIn. And I'll put that column out.
Oh, and I guess one last thing to our listeners. Again, thank you for listening. Continue to support us on Facebook, Patreon if you can. This will be listed as episode 152. I put the food episodes as their own. They're under Sutton Impact, but instead of Impact 152, 153, I just put Sutton Impact Food 1, Food 2. So, because I figure they're kind of standalone episodes, but they're on the same feed. If you subscribe, they're in the same feed. But it looked like it was a different, the numbering was a little different. And I'm not sure if that was a good thing or bad thing, but I thought, for referencing, it's like, oh, those are the food episodes, they're easy to find.
And to our music fans, tonight is the Grammys. And Mom and I were talking that, we went, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we got a chance and we went to the Grammys. And it was an amazing show. It was a show where Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney performed together, where Pink did her High Wire act, and when Happy was the big song.
Ah, yes, the Minion song.
But it was really a fun evening.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back probably after the Super Bowl next week, or we do before.
Let's do the show Monday. Let's do it Monday so we can do it after.
Okay. So next year we'll get to hear we'll start off with our Super Bowl thoughts, and hopefully everybody gets to watch a really good game. That's
We'll
really
also be able to talk about the Hall of Fame because that'll be official by then.
perfect. So we'll have lots more NFL talk because eventually we're going to run into this baseball talk in the summer, and it's pretty slow. Also, the NHL All-Star game is here.
It's great to